Alright, we're working with subtracting fractions today. And when you're working with fractions, one thing that I want you to always remember to do when you're subtracting is subtract your fractions first and then go back and subtract your whole numbers. I have a couple of examples here. If you look at my very first one, I have 11 and 11/12 minus 4. So this mixed number is on top, and then I have a whole number underneath. And if you notice in this position, I don't have a fraction. So it's 11/12 minus 0. I have nothing here, so there's nothing to subtract. So in my answer, I bring that fraction down because there's no other fraction to subtract from it. So I've subtracted my fractions out. That's the first thing I want to do. Then I want to move over to my whole numbers, and I have 11 minus 4, and I'm only subtracting those whole numbers. So 11 minus 4 is 7. All right, I have another example here. Notice again that I have a mixed number here. I have a whole number here that I'm subtracting. So my fraction 2/3, there's nothing here to subtract from it. So 2/3 minus 0 is 2/3. So I've subtracted out the fractions. Now I'm going to move over to my whole numbers, and I have 6 minus 4 equals 2. So the most important thing I want you to remember here with these kinds of examples, when you're subtracting fractions, always subtract the fractions first and then subtract the whole numbers last. Alright, when we're regrouping fractions, I want you to notice this problem here, and I've worked through this, and I want to show you what I did here in this example. I started off with 7 as a whole number minus 2 5/6. Now notice this time I have my mixed number on the bottom. I have a whole number here, no fraction. So I have nothing here, but I have to subtract 5/6 from a fraction here. But I don't have anything, so I'm going to have to borrow from my whole number. So if I borrow 1 from 7, I have 6 left. Now that 1 that I borrowed, I have to turn it into a fraction because I have to subtract this fraction from it. And we already know that if you're subtracting fractions, if the denominators are the same, then you only subtract the numerators. So I'm going to come up with a fraction that has the same denominator, 6. This fraction has to equal 1, so I automatically know that this will be 6/6. I borrowed 1 from 7, and this fraction equals 1, so I brought it over. Now I'm ready to subtract my fractions. 6/6 minus 5/6 equals 1/6. So I've subtracted my fractions, and now I'm going to move over and subtract my whole numbers, and I have 6 minus 2 equals 4. Don't forget to simplify your fractions after you've done your math. It just so happens that this fraction is already in simplest form. So, if you cannot subtract, then borrow from the whole number next door, and then take that 1 that you borrowed, turn it into a fraction here, and then you're ready to subtract. Alright, another example, and I've done it here, and I want to walk you through this. Regrouping fractions. Now if you notice in this problem, 8 2/8 minus 4 6/8, I already have 2 mixed numbers. But look at it closely. My denominators are the same, so all I need to do is subtract my numerators. The denominator stays the same. But I have 2 minus 6. And we automatically know if we have 2, we can't take away 6, so I still have to borrow again. So I'm going to borrow from the 8, and that 8's going to become 7. Now I've written it here. When I borrowed that 1, I have to carry that over and make a fraction that equals 1. I'm going to use my same denominator, 8. And 8/8 equals 1. Now I'm going to have to add these two fractions together. And 2/8 and 8/8 equals 10/8. Now I'm ready to subtract. If I have 10/8, I can take away 6/8, and then I have 4/8. Now I'm going to subtract my whole number. 7 minus 4 equals 3. So here I have 3 4/8 as my final answer. Don't forget to simplify your answer. That's what we're going to work on next. Alright, so I had 3 4/8 as the answer in that previous problem. So don't forget to simplify your fractions. We've already simplified fractions, and if you can remember, we need to think of the largest number that we can come up with that will divide into both the numerator and the denominator. 4 is the largest number we can do. So 4 will go into 4 one time, and 4 will go into 8 two times. So my fraction is simplified to 1/2. Don't forget your whole number. So my final answer is 3 1/2. Alright, let's review. I have a mixed number here with a fraction here on the top. I'm subtracting a whole number. I have 11/12 minus 0 that's here. So my answer for my fraction is 11/12. 11 minus 4 equals 7. So my answer here is 7 11/12. And we cannot forget to simplify, but this fraction is already in simplest form. Alright, if we look here, we have 7 as a whole number, and we have our mixed number here. 7 minus 2 5/6. I don't have a fraction here, but I have to take away 5/6. So I have to borrow. I'm going to borrow from 7, and now it's a 6. The one that I borrowed, I have to turn into a fraction form, and I'm going to use 6/6 because my denominator here is 6. 6/6 minus 5/6 equals 1/6. So I've subtracted my fractions. Now I'm going to move to my whole numbers. 6 minus 2 equals 4. Again, don't forget to simplify your fractions. 1/6 is already in simplest form. Alright, one last practice fraction. I have 8 2/8 minus 4 6/8. Okay? Since my denominators are the same, all I need to do is subtract my numerators. If I have 2, I can't subtract 6 from 2. So I need to borrow from 8, and now that 8 is 7. Alright, I've got to take that one that I borrowed here, turn it into fraction form. 8/8 equals 1, and I add these two together. So 2/8 and 8/8 equals 10/8. Now I'm ready to subtract my fractions. 8/10 minus 6/10 equals 4/10. Subtracting my whole number, 7 minus 4 equals 3. And my answer is 4 3/10. But I have to simplify that fraction. And I have to think, what is the largest number I can divide into 4 and to 10? And my answer is 2. So to simplify my fraction, 2 goes into 4 2 times. And 2 goes into 10 5 times. Bring my whole number over, and my answer is 3 2/5.